I dream in the morning that she'll bring me water. I dream in the evening that she'll bring me wine. She's just a poor man's daughter from south of the border, Evangelina, down in old Mexico. There's a great hot desert south of Mexicali, and if you ain't got the water, boy, you'd better not go, because tequila won't get you across that desert to Evangelina, down in old Mexico. The fire I feel for the woman I love is driving me insane, knowing she's waiting and I can't get there. God only knows that I've racked my brain to try and find a way to reach that woman down in old Mexico.
A lot of my travels in Baja have been rugged, rough.
We got up that thing and it just kept getting narrower and narrower and going from one boulder to the next.
Terrible roads, vehicles breaking down.
And finally, it wasn't wide enough to get our Suburban through there.
Being in well, you know Baja, no gas on the peninsula.
And we had gone a couple miles and I had to back up 2 miles. That wasn't a defining moment, that was one of those stupidity moments. Oh, God.
Being someplace, being reined in and not being able to get out for a few days.
You've been on that road?
Oh, yes. Well, what year
In what? Well, I assure you it had not been improved at that point in time. It was just absolutely ghastly. Oh my gosh.
And his inconvenience and when his trip to hell was, he had a flat tire and he got bit by some no-see-ums. This is an adventure. It depends on which end of the telescope you're looking down, come out to you.
I think that people who know Baja, when they finish it, they're going to say, right on, I agree with this guy. And people who don't know Baja, maybe they'll say, hey, maybe I ought to check it out. So you got a couple of things going there. And I've heard both. Even this morning I was talking to somebody and a car came by and somebody was asking directions and the woman stuck her head out the door and says, are you Greg Neiman? I go, yes, I am, you know. She says, oh, I was just finishing your book, blah, blah, blah. And it made me feel pretty good. Like I say, that's down here in Baja. Nobody in Palm Springs has stopped me and asked me.
The main reason is to stimulate them to actually go down and see these places for themselves. And take the book with them, because it's not really the book that you start at page 1 and go to the end. They're really more reference books. So I want people to feel that if they're in this region, that they have the book and they come to a place and they watch this, and they could look it up and find out hopefully all the information they want. And if things have changed, I hope they'll get in touch with me and tell me, because I like to keep things updated through my website especially.
That Baja is a fun, comfortable learning experience that more and more people should experience.
to buy the next one, I guess. I think that varies with the book. The first book was specifically designed to inspire unemployed teenagers. That's my goal when I set out from England. That's really what kept me going, because I'd gone on TV and on the radio and back in England, and I'd said that I was going to walk around Baja, and I had a couple of tough times, especially early on, when I could have just dropped the whole trip. But because I'd said publicly I was going to do it, I was really committed, and I would have died rather than give up. The second book, I think, is a very spiritual message. And the third book about the dogs, I'm really trying to underline the problems that dogs have down here and in Mexico and third world countries in general. The dogs I adopted were in pretty bad shape at one point, and suddenly they've become the most wonderful dogs, great companions, and I hope to really say something that will maybe a little bit improve the lot of Baja dogs.
Shilling drinks in hotel bar rooms. People would say, when are you going to write a book? I had to do it in self-defense.
Well, yeah, basically what happened is people started dying. The people that I kind of grew up with down here since 1964, they started falling alongside of the road, and I was encouraged by some people in La Salina to try to record some of the history of the rather interesting characters that are portrayed in the book. And in fact, I kind of underplayed what they did when they were down here. It was a real fun time.
I've always loved to write, and I have loved Baja California for almost 30 years. And I saw how fast Baja was changing, and the things about Baja that I loved, the people that I loved, were disappearing, and I had a great need, a great urge to somehow capture the old Baja, the Baja that I and many people I know cared about. And my way of capturing something is by writing. Also, my kids grew up and left home, and I had no more excuses to not write.
Well, the first one came from something very specific. I came from London to Baja, and I felt a calling in the middle of the desert when I first came here. I just thought, well, partly what a beautiful place this is, but I almost heard a voice telling me I was going to write a book about it. So I kind of took that seriously and ended up doing just that.
Well, it was a visit. I call it a visitation. I was down here doing the mapping for Gateway to Alta California. I was with Graham McIntosh, one of the authors, was along. Lowell Lindsay, who was a principal in Sunbelt Publications, and Bill Everts, who is a well-known Baja California photographer. And we had a day in which we'd been told we'd find water, and we didn't. And I got severely dehydrated and got cramps and went to bed and couldn't sleep that night. And I literally had a hallucination, which went on the entire night. I don't think I went to sleep till 3 or 4 in the morning. And when I waked up, I had this whole story like it really happened. And 2 or 3 days later, when I got home, I was still remembering the whole thing. And I thought, you know, I got to write this down and put an outline, or I'll never remember it. I started writing, and 6 weeks later, I had 200 pages of everything that I remembered from what it was, frankly, was a visit by a young woman in the Arroyo of Valladares who told me her life story. And I developed a novel out of it. And that is literally the truth. It sounds like a bunch of hoopla, but it isn't. And the proof of it is I never wrote any fiction before, and I'll probably never write any, not unless she comes back.
After I retired, I have a house in San Jose del Cabo, and I started driving the peninsula. And my interest was piqued because I would see these off-road symbols of missions on the Auto Club map, and I first started to look at one and then looked at another, and then pretty soon I was in the midst of doing a book on the missions of Baja California.